right, we're gonna get going here. I'm not sure if YouTube's having a bit of a heart attack today or what. But I can't continue to wait for it. Oh, I see something there, but anyway, sorry for those on YouTube. It's kind of like just going in a whatever, just going around and around. All right. So yesterday we ended with a topping tail bar. Not too much of a surprise, that gap up, and you don't see the gap because of the 24-hour chart. But, that was a gap up day after the 3 days of, and we'll get to the ETFs and the push up, and then the following gap up, which you don't see here on the futures. But anyway, it pushed up into resistance. And we looked at it yesterday, looked over to the left, and there was that resistance up there. And it set the high of the day in the first 5 minutes and made some attempts to stabilize on the way down. It couldn't do it and came down to major support. So we had an uptrend. We've got a deep retracement, which now puts the trend in question. And it didn't break down below the prior swing low, but it's a deep retracement. So now, can it get back up toward the high? It's made a turn. We see a topping tail bar that didn't follow through. So it tells us that buyers have stepped up to buy the dip. And so we'll now just continue to see if it can do that. So look at the 15-minute chart here. It's part of the jiggles. That looks like it's probably that topping tail bar right there as it popped up to that resistance area and got slammed back down and started to repair the damage again. And here it is. So we've got a decent pattern here going into the open. And thank you, Christian. This congestion pattern at resistance, if you apply bar by bar here, it guides you to a bias that says this is going to go up, right? So it tried to dip down, it reversed up, and you got a bottoming tail bar within this consolidation, right? So you could press the button right here, looking for this to reverse higher, and it shouldn't go down below this 880 level. So getting a little bit more of a X-ray into that, it's about the same level, right? So you see the dip. One of the concepts from MTS is catching the turn of a red to green, or even the bottom of a bottoming tail bar. And you do it by first having a bias in multiple time frames and seeing if there's a void, and then looking for the pullback and the beginning of the reversal in a smaller time frame. So as this is pushing up here, it's looking like it can go higher. Can it get up to that high? Well, nobody knows. But looking at this pattern and a historical perspective, it could, but I think it's more likely to stay under the 200. That's just a guess. As it hits there, going back up, that sell-off yesterday will put a little damper on the bulls' enthusiasm here. But overall, it's still a positive pattern. And this big purple line, if you remember from yesterday, was where we did the measured move. That measurement, that gave it a projection high of around this level up in here. So it's quite a ways from there. And it'll just have to do a little, dealing with this resistance, absorbing the supply up here. Right. So we don't know what that's going to look like, how it's going to form. But, overall, we've got a questionable hourly chart because it came all the way down to major support. It started rebuilding over here and it's moving up. And well, now we just see what it's going to do. Right. So we can have a short-term bullish bias here for the moment, with the realization that it's likely going to have difficulty getting through this area without more chopping around. Now, if it breaks below this area, and let's just the other scenario. Hey, you know what? All this looks good right over here, what it's doing. But all of a sudden, at the open, sellers come in and say, hey, Corona this, Corona that, no medicine for you. Like, down it goes. And the next level we'll look at is down here at 7,800. 78, 77.50, whatever. So heavy lifting up in here. If it fails, next stop is down here, which would still put it in, the halfway mark of this big wide range bar, and it could pop up violently from that. So we'll see how it unfolds. Right now, it looks like it can continue to grind up. It's getting a little bit of a rejection on the breakout. We'll see. And I'll see, that's what I drew, on the S&Ps, which lined up with this resistance area there. But the same story. It was an uptrend. It opened higher yesterday. First 5 minutes, sellers came in. Down she went, tried to make the turn at the end of the day, couldn't do it. And overnight, buyers came in. Same pattern, same goings on there. We'll see what it does. Dow, same story. Moving up, deep retracement, trying to hold. Weekly's in a downtrend, fell off the roof, hit the ground like a bag of rocks. Trying to bounce up a little bit here, trying to crawl its way back. And so far, looks like it can move higher. And it's a typical pattern, meaning it's a typical pattern that you see even in intraday time frames of a collapse, a V, move up, a higher low, a higher high, and then it goes sideways a little bit and it rolls back down. It's still in a downtrend. So as that sets up, the weekly becomes quite clear as a sell setup. So, that's kind of like looking into the crystal ball, and day to day it could get a little fuzzy. But from what I see here, this is what appears to be setting up for the moment. S&Ps, right? So again, we don't know what it's going to do here pre-market, other than for the moment, it looks like it can push higher. I would say spreads above 2,800, I think, are safe, and down below 2,500. I like them to be no-brainers. But as I said, if this rolls over here and starts going down below this low, the call spread should be a no-brainer, even a little tighter than that high. But where it stops to go down, I cannot be so sure. So it's easier to go, let's look at the spiders and kind of get a feel for them, and then go to SPX. So let's turn this into a 180-minute chart and put it on 24 hours. Let's see where the heavy lifting is. Right, so right where it is here, right, was that gap fill that it hit yesterday and this congestion there. So again, the same deep retracement. And let's see if this turns red. Let's go to a 30-minute chart for the moment, right? If this grind up right now fails, and let's just call it here, right where it's at. Let's say the sellers come in right there and they roll this back over. Well, then, up above yesterday's high should look pretty good for the call spread. And so, where are we at? 276. Yeah. So I guess 280, we'll see what that looks like. It went up to 275-ish. That's yesterday. That's yesterday. Yeah. Okay. And then back down. And 268. And so same. If this will roll over from here, right? Everything we looked at was like, oh, this looks pretty good to go higher. Well, going back to the S&Ps, but if this stalls, the S&Ps will. And if it rolls, right? So if this fails here at this high and starts breaking down toward here, the call spread up here should work, right? So go with that. Go with that, right? Which would be above yesterday's high. And we'll see what premiums there are. I mean, if it gets pushed down deeply into that green bar, well, of course, the odds become greater and greater. Now, one thing I wanted to point out when we looked at this, yesterday's gap up, and it gave it all back. You know, remember, this had the gap up in the rally, and then it gapped again. So it was a lot of move in a short period of time. But if you can visualize this on a line chart, yesterday's bar doesn't look so bad. It just was a resting day, because this, what is bearish, and you know what these candlestick aficionados get into with all of their names that you're supposed to remember, is like, how deep did it go into the green bar? And now they have different names for that. And this didn't go deeply into it all, but you look at this red bar and it's like, oh my God, you know, and sure, it's a bearish bar, but I mean, look where it came from in 2 days, and then gaps up. There's going to be profit taking. All right. So I think it's a reasonable bar for yesterday. And we'll just see how far this goes down, or the lack thereof, today, and what this looks like. Right? All right. I think we looked at YM, the Russell. Just kind of dragging itself along, chopping around here. Same story up here. And we'll see how far that gets. Oil, slopping around. You know, it's kind of coming down rather hard yesterday, but it doesn't look so bad on the daily chart. And not so sure what it's going to do. Bonds rolling over a little bit, getting kind of sloppy. We got some support over here, and leading me to think maybe today going to be a little choppy, right? Some uncertainty about whatever. You know, we're all listening to the news, and I'm kind of, I don't know about all of you, but I listened to the news last night, and I'm like, what the F is going on over there, where they're talking about these drugs that are helping people, and people, like, I forget, my wife was telling one country they're going back to work, and Trump saying he's buying millions and millions of, you know, these drugs for treatment to people. And why aren't this all going out? And someone is like, get sick, go to work with a mask and take your freaking drugs. Get done with this stuff. I'm just kind of rambling, but I mean, I listen to this stuff and get so confused. Like, there's a fox in the hen house over there, I think. So gold looks good, you know, greater than 100% retracement, chopping around. You know, it's getting close up to that that area up there. I think it's where the heavy lifting is going to start for gold, up in there. And silver, yeah, like, what are we waiting for? You know, protect yourself. You know, you want to put on your mask, put on your gloves. You want to put on your bodysuit. You want, just hunker down in your house and go down in the bunker like Joe Biden, and, you know, get on Skype, FaceTime, and the rest of us will take our chances however we choose. And red bar. Oh, I'll be going out with a washcloth and a bucket and washing my hands as I'm, you know. Anyway, guys, let me hand it over to Dan before I start ranting here. Go ahead, Dan.
I like when you rant. That's good. I do too. I start ranting when I talk about the spreads, option spreads, and also politics. Those are my two problem areas. Let's take a look at opens first. We don't have that many, and we're all in good shape. The weekly options trader, well, both letters actually, we only focused on oil actually, and well, and an airline. So we sold a put spread on XOP on the gap breakout, and also did a covered call in the swing letter. And we've been watching these airlines for bottoming, and this was the best one that we found in terms of a turn. And today's MT Live is going to be very, very timely again. Trading W patterns, trading any type of bullish pattern on the turn. And so that's what we did there. In the swing letter, we had a bunch of opens coming into yesterday, and we closed a bunch of them with marvelous profits on the gap up. And this is what we have remaining. We have a covered call in Clorox, CBS, been lagging, but we're long stock there. A DGX has great relative strength. We sold a third, and I just sent an alert tightening the stop. This chart's going to be in today's lesson, which is a 180 reversal, W bottom, price void. We're still in it. Look at this beautiful 15-minute chart. It's in a nice uptrend. We just use our pivots for trailing stops, and it's pretty easy management. MGM. Let's see, we might have trailed stop 10 of that. 1339. No, it held the stop. So we're still in 2/3 lot on MGM. It's a different flavor of retest. So that was another one. And we also added Oki in the oil department yesterday, and the XOP covered call I mentioned. And that's it. So our inventory is very manageable. Lou is asking about a naked put on CCL. If you go through our checklist, Lou, I forget if you were in our options coaching yesterday, but we went over the credit spread checklist, right? It starts with a compelling pattern. Options have to be liquid. And then the credit for the days to expiration has to meet our adequacy test. I personally don't like this cruise ship, either fundamentals, because they have such a junky reputation. It got a nice bounce on the Saudi investment notice, but pattern wise, I like RCH superior. Look, it came in, it curled up, double bottom, textbook. This is textbook. So I have this one on a 15-minute chart on my other screen, and then the other third big one here. NCLH looks good too. So yes, I will consider naked puts on these. When the volatility was high, we were having an absolute field day. Shorting out of the money puts for amazing prices, just mind-boggling. So yes, they're still viable candidates, but I'm kind of, when I look at them, I'm like, what? You're only going to give me 50 cents? 3 weeks ago, you gave me $3. It was incredible. VXX is, we're out of it. We took our profits yesterday, but as long as the market remains, as long as it remains strong, I got a bearish bias on this instrument. EHTH, one of you asked about a call spread, and the same answer as Lou. The answer is yes, of course. But the problem's going to be because of the big drop, the strike would be over, just the collapse here on the 15-minute chart. So eyeballing 122 area. And that's so far away, that's 25% away. I think you're going to have two problems. One is it's going to be very illiquid, the spreads, which has been the problem over the last 6 weeks. And number two, I don't think you're going to get a good premium. But the chart is a candidate, sure. So now go through the checklist and you tell me if it's warranted. That's what we got, a lot of workers in here that I said, you tell me if it's a good candidate. Fang is still on my list. I had this as a put spread, but we didn't get our desired limit. GSX, nice, yeah, that came from you yesterday, Gertz. I liked it. It was a bear 1, 2, 3, 4 when you mentioned it. And remember, I remember pointing this out to Debbie and some others, saying that, yeah, that was a superior pattern versus, fighting strong stocks for a tiny little scalp. Luigi, if you put your drop down, all panelists and attendees. Brad, I see you too. Your drop down, please. Brad is saying CCL facing class action in Australia. Ruby Princess Calamity. We're chartists, Brad, so I don't care about any class action lawsuit myself. I care about the patterns, and we've reviewed that. I like the other two better. Luigi's asking, is there a recording of the coaching? The answer is yes. As long as you signed up, then you're on the list to get the link to the recording. Let's go through some gappers here. Next few minutes. Tal, I think, had some bad news about their accounting shenanigans, and those are always bearish. So this is another bear call credit spread. Go through the checklist. I'm not going to do it now while the market's closed because it's a waste of time. You got to wait till it opens up. On my other computer, I see our DGX making new highs here. I also had RRGB in a window from yesterday. I see it breaking out here on a 15. This is still a candidate to re-enter. We took our profits yesterday, but I like this. I like the 15. So that's on my interest list today. Disney got a downgrade. But if it can take out, we love trading news in the sense of many ways. Sometimes we go with the news, sometimes we fade it. This would be an example of fading. If it can get over this closing pivot high right here, then it would be a put spread candidate for tomorrow. And I would take this pivot right here, so like the 98s or lower, and sell a put spread on it, or even naked. Pins had a nice bullish gap here on earnings. Yesterday's high 1606 still has a price void. So this is one of my favorite bullish gappers today. I got it here in the bottom right. I'll keep an eye on it. We talked about stalking yesterday, and stalking means that's what I call a tier 1 setup. Like, hey, if it sets up in the first 5, 10, 15 minutes, and I put those in thumbnails. So that's why I have pins right there. He's a tier 1. SGH 2470. I think you had earnings or guidance or whatever, but yeah, Gustavo gave us a lesson on stalking because he is very skilled at it. NVAX had some news about, this is one of the Corona discovery stocks, gapping up, moving. No pattern. Yeah, I already posted it, Lou. Yeah, I like Tilray directional and put spread. Yep, big move up, kind of curled bottom. IART. I don't know why I'm looking at you. Pergo, I think had something with guidance, 48.75. It's at the top end of the range. Maybe 30-minute high, but we can find better. RPM. Did I lose my pre-market already? No. So RPM is showing 64 bucks, but I don't see any prints. So we'll come back to you. Yeah, it wasn't a gap risk per se. It was just something we found scanning yesterday. MSM gapping down. So I don't know what to do with that. Michael Jackson over the high. Yeah, Michael Jack. We mentioned this yesterday that there was a lot of setups that were bullish the day before that we entered. They closed with a red bar, which means under the open,